So I designed my own Fender Mod Shop Telecaster. This is it. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you all about that process. Would I do it again? What did I learn? Was it really worth it getting this? And how does this stack up against the real Fender custom shop? Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Joey, and if you're not subscribed to this channel already, you should definitely do it because I play that kind of stuff all the time. If you want to learn that style of playing, that style of soloing, check out my guitar courses in the description down below. And if you're interested in playing that exact riff and solo you just heard, you can also check out my Patreon community because over there I post new tabs and backing tracks to my favorite riffs and solos every single month. Check it out. Okay, today's topic, the Fender Mod Shop. This is a Fender Mod Shop Telecaster. What is the Fender Mod Shop? Real quick, the Fender Mod Shop is a mini custom shop by Fender. In their online configurator, you can completely design your own Stratocaster, Telecaster, Jazzmaster, whatever you like, in the finish you like, with the pickups you like, the neck you like. So it's basically a custom shop for a made-in-Mexico instrument. Now, if you go to the Fender Mod Shop website, this is how this whole experience starts. You start by choosing your model. Now, full transparency about my Fender Mod Shop Telecaster before we get into this. I am a Fender artist and I am part of the Fender artist roster. So this video is not sponsored by Fender. They don't know I'm making the video and they don't see this video before it goes online, but I am a Fender artist. I have a good relationship with the brand. I still think I can talk objectively about these things, but you should at least know I do have some ties with the company. Okay, so let the fun begin. What I did was I designed a Telecaster. It shows the model here, and this is where the configurator actually opens up. And then you have all these cool options, starting with the bodywood. And we go with alder because with alder, we have the most options when it comes to finishes. You know, you got solid finishes here. There's every finish you can probably think of, from red to blue to gray. Debated going with this one, but I didn't because I saw the metallic finishes here. I love this blue. I love the gold one, but I ended up doing the Mystic Pine Green because this is a color, as a left-handed person, I never have access to these kinds of colors. So I went with this finish. So in the next step then, you can check out what kind of neck you would like. Like you can go with a maple neck, and you have different woods too. So you can choose a mahogany neck if you want. And what I ended up doing was going for that baked maple kind of neck here. Why? Because I own a Fender Player Series Telecaster, and it has the normal maple neck on. And for me, there's a little bit too much lacquer on those. It doesn't feel real natural. It feels like it's super finished. And with the roasted maple Deep C, which I chose, it kind of feels waxed. I don't know if it is, but it does feel waxed. So it's much better for me than the normal maple neck that Fender offers. So next up then, you can choose your pickups. You have different variations here. I personally love the Custom Shop 51 no-casters. You can get them in here too. But what I did is I went with the humbucker. I went with the shawbuckers. And I wanted that because as left-handed guitar players, again, we never have access to this kind of stuff. So I wanted one that I absolutely couldn't have in the real world. So I made this a humbucker tele for me. Next up then, you decide what kind of pickup material you want. Then if you go with the black pearl, this is absolutely sick. And this is what I ended up doing, as you have seen. And then one more thing that is really important that I think you should absolutely do if you want to order something like this is I always go with the classic gear tuners, because those are the ones that are like the vintage ones on the Fender Custom Shop Tele. So the ones where you tuck in the string at the top of that machine head and it just works every single time. It's the easiest way to restring guitar. And at the end of the day, you choose your guitar strings. I went with a set of 10s, and then you get a case. And that is pretty much where your design process ends, and you have to wait a couple weeks till the guitar actually arrives. A couple weeks later, it arrived at my doorstep, and that brings us to the topic of the delivery time with Mod Shop guitars. In my case, I ordered this Tele shortly before the end of 2025, and it showed up at my doorstep in mid-February, so I guess 6 or 7 weeks later. However, depending on how busy the factories actually are, this could take up to 3 or 4 months. So if you're an impatient person, if you want this 4 weeks later, that is not guaranteed. You need to be a little bit patient if you order something like this, because it can take quite some time depending on when in the year you actually order it. Now, when I pulled this out of the case for the first time, I was really surprised, because my first impressions of a new guitar are always based on how well it's built. The first thing I always check are the frets. I check if there are any sharp frets, and in this case there are absolutely none. This is an impeccable fret job, and it's not worse than any of my custom shop guitars by Fender, by Nick Huber, you name it. This is an impeccable fret job. The next thing I always check is the nut, and the nut on this guitar is cut perfectly. No tuning instabilities, nothing. The machine heads work great. And then the bridge, wouldn't you know, was already intonated so well with these 6 individual saddles here. It was like 96, 97% dead on, coming from the factory. And then I checked the finish, and I don't see any flaws or any checking or anything wrong with the finish on the back and the front. It's a perfect paint job, so I really couldn't complain when I pulled it out of the case first. The only thing I wasn't sure about was the pickups, because first of all, I never played a guitar with humbuckers before, I think, and I actually never played the Fender shopbuckers before, so that was a big surprise. So as you can hear, the pickups are super open sounding and super responsive. So they twang, not quite like a, vintage Tele, but very close to actual Tele pickups, because they have a lot of that quack, quack, quack whenever you hit the strings. And I love that, because I have humbuckers in this Tele now, but I don't lose the Tele character. Now, before we compare it to that absolute beast I have over here, the 52 Custom Shop Telecaster, let's answer the question if this is actually worth it. A couple things come to mind here. So at first, the value perspective. So this sits price-wise between a Fender Player Series and the M Ultra and M Pro models, the American-made Fenders. But it's closer to the Ultra and M Pro models depending on the kind of configuration you choose here, because there are upcharges for certain things like the roasted maple neck. So it could be that your Mod Shop ends up costing the same as an American Ultra or an American Pro. In that case, the entire decision depends on what kind of player you are. Do you need that psychological thing that a guitar needs to be built in the US? Because if you don't, this might be a good option because you have more options to choose from, more finishes, more pickup configurations, more neck configurations. It's not worse than an American Pro, and it's not worse than an American Ultra. I play both, and they're impeccable instruments too, but so is this. Play and feel-wise, it's not a worse guitar than the American Fenders. It's just built someplace else. If that's no problem for you and you like the options and you have the patience to wait a couple months to get your dream Fender, like a custom shop kind of experience, but for a much lower price than the actual Fender custom shop, this is great for you. On the other side of the price range is the Fender Player Series at around $800 to $1,000. So the question is, how much is this an upgrade over a regular Fender Player Series? And the answer for me is not that big of an upgrade. The Fender Player Series feels very similar to this Mod Shop Tele because I have a Fender Player Series Tele in Hylia yellow, but the neck feels almost the same. The big difference is I went with a roasted maple neck here, and it feels better because it feels more natural and less lacquered to me. But in terms of the body shape, what it weighs, how it feels, the neck shape, how everything's just feeling, it feels exactly like a Player Series instrument, but I think it's set up better and it's feeling better because I chose a different neck. So if you're fine with the Player Series 2 already, and you have a Player Series 2 and you love the color, then I think a Mod Shop is not right for you. But if you always dreamed of that kind of guitar that you already love in the Player Series, but you would like to have some of the individual stuff on your guitar, like a color that you always dreamed of, a pickup configuration you always dreamed of, but you could never have, a mahogany neck that you always wanted, a roasted maple neck that you always wanted. So if you're into the options and if you're into individuality, then I think it's great because you're paying much less than what you would pay for an actual custom shop guitar, because the only alternative at Fender would be the real custom shop if you wanted to have an individual instrument based on your specs. And the custom shop prices are 2 times, 3 times higher than a Mod Shop instrument. So it depends on what you want out of your instrument. It does feel like a Fender Player Series, but will it sound a million times better than your Fender Player Series? No. Will it sound worse than the American Pro and the American Ultra? Also no. You're paying for the individual aspects of this instrument. You're paying for your favorite color, your favorite neck shape, your favorite pickup combination, all in one instrument. And with that being said, let's compare it to the mother of all teles. Okay, 2 riffs for each guitar. 1 semi-driven, 1 full gain. Let's go. I know it's not a fair comparison per se because one guitar has humbuckers, the other has a single coil, but still, I want you to think about if one guitar actually sounds $3,000 better than the other. So what do you think? Is this Fender Mod Shop Tele for $1,800 to $2,000 so much worse than this $5,000 52 custom shop Telecaster? Let me know in the comments. Also, let me know in the comments if you would buy a Fender Mod Shop Tele like mine, or what kind of specs you would choose. As always, I'm Joey, and I'll see you in the next.